pretty little space, right?
Hello, welcome to another UTS Startups Confessions. Okay, raise your hand if you know someone with bad balance, or who has been impacted by a fall, or who might be impacted by a fall soon if their health continues to go the way it is. Yeah, I think most people in the room, and this is not an uncommon experience. We have a wonderful solution here. In 10 seconds, what is Balance Mat?
Hi, my name is George Tulloch. I'm the CEO of Balance Mat. Our team has a big vision. We want to establish balance as the sixth vital, and our mission is to pioneer objective balance, stop preventable falls, and extend quality of life.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Okay, run people through that again. For people at home that may not be paying full attention, pay attention now. Why is this so important?
This is so important because falls have a huge social and financial cost. So around 60% of older adults suffer from falls every year, and 20% of those result in chronic injury or even death. Beyond that, falls are the second leading cause of preventable death, according to the World Health Organization. That's just behind road fatalities. So this isn't just an older person problem, this is an everyone problem. And when you come to the financial side, beyond the social side, falls cost up to 1.5% of healthcare expenditure in each developed economy across the world.
Okay, so giant problem.
Yeah.
I know Nintendo Wii has a balance thing, and you can kind of figure out how your balance is. You have a much more sophisticated solution. Do you want to talk people through how that solution actually works?
So our device is essentially a novel pressure sensor. So Wii fits and other pressure plates. They use traditional force sensors, which are more of an actuator, whereas our solution uses light. It's fiber optic cable, which according to Cicada is deep tech. So it's a light comes out of the PCB, goes through the fiber optic cable, and there's a series of crossover points. And when the light is disturbed, it's interpreted by our sensor, which is interpreted by our data, by our algorithm on the computer, and it spits out a score where lower is better, higher is worse, and a line graph, which is interpreted, then easier able to see exactly what the changes were over time.
Okay, so more accurate and probably more dimensions of where your balance is affected.
Not necessarily more dimensions, but probably a more direct approach. Whereas you might need a data analytics degree to see some of these radial graphs as interpreted data, our approach democratizes that approach. It's jargon-free. We're not talking about postural sway. Our patent and our regulatory approval say balance, not postural sway.
Okay, so take me back. Where did the idea come from, and what did the start of that look like?
So the company, which is actually my first employer before I came on board a couple of years over COVID, the technology was used to detect breaches on a very particular building here in Australia that the Australian government does not want you walking on top of.
Which building was that, sorry?
Sorry. And so this technology was used in that situation. And the founder of the company, Ian Bergman, who's also the inventor, he went into a research lab at the University of Canberra and saw them using a Wii Fit to measure people's balance. And this was used in papers all over the world. In fact, it was used just last month by a university in Japan where they proved that balance had a direct relationship to the development of Alzheimer's. So he saw this and he was incredibly frustrated. He was incredulous. He said, this is ridiculous. Why are we asking our researchers to jailbreak a Japanese toy to measure balance? So he realized we could develop this technology that we had inside Perimeter Securities and spin out a new company called Balance Mat, where we would actually create a device that would measure balance itself, not whether you're doing the right thing in a video game.
Okay, so protected IP?
Yes, protected in IP. So our IP is, we have patent approvals in the UK, the EU, Japan, Singapore, Australia, and we have a patent pending in the US.
Okay, cool. And with that, how did you start to develop it? Because hardware is hard, yeah?
That's the thing. It's not as hard as you might think. It's how we developed it is Ian worked with our chief hardware developer, our chief engineer, to design the product, to change the technology into what the balance mat is now today. And a gradual through that iterative process, we created a really robust piece of hardware. But the software has gone through a few iterations in the past. I mean, there is a little bit of a trope amongst startups where a software developer will come on board, code it, and then leave. And then you have to bring in a new developer to code it again. But we're very lucky now that we've got a great team of developers who are working very closely with the University of Canberra. In fact, one of our developers is doing his PhD right now, developing machine learning for the balance mat.
Okay, fantastic. We'll get into kind of lessons learned and things you might do differently later. But how did the growth of the company look like, bringing on trials or customers over the years?
So we've worked as much as we can with the community, with the market. We developed it right from the get-go that this would be in people's hands. This wasn't dry research in a lab. We wanted to create a device that anyone could use. So we worked together with our research partners and with people such as Jenny Mobbs from the Council on the Aging and working through those pilot studies to create a device that they would find is easy to use. So we've spent around $4.5 million to date through bootstrap funding, angel funding, in-kind funding, and government funding, such as the R&D tax incentive. Thanks, Australian government.
It's a wonderful program.
Yeah, and we've got it to this point right now where we're in the market. We've made sales.
Okay, and I can't imagine how you would go about that. If I had a novel kind of balance measuring solution, how do you get sales on that kind of thing? What did that look like?
Well, I mean, there are a few organizations in Australia that are focused on falls risk, such as Neura. There is many symposiums talking about falls risk. People understand that falls are an issue. So communicating to them that they don't have to just use a subjective measurement of someone's balance of saying, all right, yeah, I guess you're okay. There is a data-driven solution for these decision-making processes. You can give someone an exercise and de-risk that treatment process to create a better outcome, not only for the patient, but also for the practitioner and for society as a whole.
Okay, and you're finding they respond well to that?
We've been finding they respond well. There is a small little bit of an issue where people say, hey, what I'm doing, it's good enough. I'm able to tell. I can tell that someone's got bad balance. But the best example I can give of this is my father suffered a fall last year in December. He had to live with me for 2 months. He had a concussion and he fractured his neck. Stable fracture, it's healed, don't worry. But his iPhone was telling him, yeah, your balance is great. You're steady. You're very steady. Your steadiness is okay. And then he fell. He fell and broke his neck. What we have right now isn't good enough.
Okay, so it sounds like an easy sale in something that we'll demonstrate in a second. But that was started 2017 and coming up to today. Where do you see things going from here?
So as we have a defined product pipeline that we've been following. So digital blood pressure monitors, when they entered the market, they were a premium product. They were in hospitals. They cost multiple thousands of dollars. And then through the years, as traction built, as manufacturing methods developed, as supply costs came down and supply was more robust, they were able to bring those devices down to $50 that you can buy from a pharmacy. That's where we see the balance mat developing to over the next few years. But if I was to think of my unicorn dream, I would say that I would want a balance mat in 1 of every 5 homes, and also it to become, as I said, our vision. It is the 6th vital. It's how we assess whether someone is healthy or not.
Okay, I like that. It should be impressive for anyone watching at home and some of the people here. What do you need to help achieve that? For anyone watching that sounds kind of interesting.
Well, so we understand that establishing balance as a sixth vital, it's a 9-figure problem. We understand it's a very, very big problem. So which domino do we knock over first? So right now, we've got a really good collaboration with Dr. James McLaughlin in Adelaide, who is using the Balance Mat and Neuroflex VR, shout out, to test the Port Adelaide and Adelaide Crows AFL teams. And this is important because just recently, over the last couple of months, a class action lawsuit has been launched by a group of workers against their employer for issues ranging back to the 1980s due to dereliction of care. It's a $1 billion class action lawsuit. It just so happens that these workers are professional AFL players. We have to do better. We can avoid and prevent some of these long-term health effects of CTE by data-driven solutions and data-driven decision-making processes.
Okay. Would you say there's certain keys to unlocking that future, and who has those keys?
I think the people who have those keys are the Australian investment community. I think that right now, we are already making sales. We are submitting government grants, and we're very successful in every grant we submit. We get every single dollar from the R&D tax grant that we submit for. We've submitted CRCPs. This development will happen organically over time. But every single dollar that we get in investment right now will accelerate that process. We're very much in the scale-up stage. I guess I want to address a point here. It's a question that I get asked at every pitch I do. Hardware. Somewhere along the line, we as a nation lost faith in Australian manufacturing. And when it comes to the world's largest economies, we are ranked 13th. But in terms of economic complexity, we're ranked 91st. We have some of the highest tertiary educated people on the planet. We have some of the most patents and academic paper referrals on the planet per capita. But we don't diversify. We just do a couple of things here and there. We don't commercialize. We don't manufacture. Because of COVID, financiers love to talk the talk when it comes time to developing sovereign capacity. But when it comes time to put their money where their mouth is, they run for the hills. And we've already addressed this. We have a really excellent relationship with Bosch Australia Manufacturing Solutions, who have assured us that they will be able to completely automate our manufacturing process so that the only jobs that we're employing are high quality Australian jobs, or for Australian visa holders, and secure our supply lines to India and Southeast Asia.
I got nothing to add. I feel like just letting you talk for a little bit longer. But I agree, it'd be nice to see there's going to be solutions in this area one day. And wouldn't it be nice if Australia, with the spend that we have on medical care in Australia, which is a differentiated kind of spend, is buying that from Australian companies and building something that we can export as well.
Exactly.
Rather than the sitting back and waiting for someone else to do it. That would be wonderful. And hopefully someone out there watching has contacts in this area or is working in this industry in something related, or might be in the VC community and is able to see the opportunity here. If I can take a step back for a second, the two things we tend to end up on are lessons learned and how things have changed you. If you could go back 2017, how would you recommend things change in the company?
In terms of the company itself, I think that if we had really acknowledged how much the medical community relies on the clinical trial process instead of seeing the value in a product in itself, sort of delaying or deferring their decision-making process down to the TGA or to any other regulatory body, I think we would have really pushed for some clinical trials earlier back then. And I guess in terms of the company itself, in terms of internally as opposed to engaging externally, I think that we would have had a more sort of streamlined process for where we wanted the software to go. We had as I said, we had a launch in the start of 2022. but then we had to pull back a little bit because our online portal wasn't as robust as we were happy enough with. But now it is, and we've gotten organic sales. My favorite one is a Papua New Guinean physiotherapist, just found us through LinkedIn and through the website and was just like, hey, I see the value in this, and just bought it. I mean, the hardest part of that process was sending it to Papua New Guinea.
There's got to be millions of people like that around the world that with the right awareness and pricing and whatever else would be able to take this on board. Last question, how has the last couple of years changed you as a person, as co-founder and CEO of this company?
I think that it's spread me thin. And when we talk about what has changed, and also specifically this event, it's called Confessions. And that's my confession. I worry that I spread myself too thin. I mean, I even had a friend that I hadn't seen for a few years say to me, it's like, George, you're doing too many things. So that's my concern. I feel like I'm doing something every single day. I'm achieving what I want to. Obviously, it's all very frustrating when I don't get to do what I want to do. But yeah, I think what's changed about me is I've re-embraced my ambition. I have ankylosing spondylitis. I got diagnosed with that in, 2017. So that means that I have, like, all of my joints are inflamed. It's an autoimmune condition. I take medication for it every day. I work out. I'm very mindful. I don't like to call it pain. But over those years before COVID, and even at the start of COVID, I lost that ambition. I felt I was very ambitious in my previous life as an aspiring musician, but I lost that. I feel like it's coming back. I feel like that George who thinks he can do everything is back, and it's incredibly exciting.
Okay, there must be a reason to push yourself that much, to be okay with being spread thin and persisting in that. It must be because you want this to be a thing. This is a motivating thing.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, my dad suffered a fall. My balance is impacted by my ankylosing spondylitis and my ADHD. My fiance's grandmother died from a fall in the middle of the night. This is a huge issue. We can stop preventable falls, not just treat them after they happen.
Okay, that's a perfect note to end on. I'm sure there's people at home this is resonating with as well. I will say every Friday we run these sessions, so at 3:30 at UTS Startups at Central. So thanks to Amazon Web Services, there's wonderful pizza and drinks and wonderful people in the room, so come on down. We also do a private Q&A session afterwards where the more spicy questions come out, so come down and join those. Can you check my balance before we finish up?
I think we could probably do that.
I think it's all right. This could be a live diagnosis of something hitherto unknown.
So for these demonstrator situations, we like to do the hardest one first.
Okay.
So I'll get you to stand on the two blue feet.
Blue feet, okay.
Yep. All right. And
I should have worn nicer shoes. I didn't know I was going to do this.
We actually tell people to use whatever shoes they're most comfortable in, they use most of the time. Whoa,
okay.
Sorry, I'm ready to grab you. All right, so don't look at the screen because biofeedback is not counted here.
Okay.
All right.
Standing
so
normally.
It's a 20-second test. So
okay.
3, 2, 1.
It's actually harder than it looks. All right. Bear with me.
Rawr.
Okay. Okay. Coming to you live. Thank you for bearing with us at home.
All right.
There will be
done.
Okay.
So your score was 8.47. And while we're only a class 1 medical device, so we can't say what that means. It's up to the healthcare practitioner to say what that means. That does fall within the normal range of data. So the lower the score, the better. The higher the score, the worse. I mean, we might not have time, but if you saw me on this, I'm getting like 20s.
Okay. We will form a line of people. We'll test everyone in the room after this, but I think that's perfect. Thank you for making me feel good about my balance, and thank you for everything today. Perfect. You ended?